Hi everyone. What a day in markets. You can see straight up bars after the CPI data. We got huge candles to the upside. This is kind of the move that I was looking for on the Tuesday. Retouch these levels here, which we did now. But let's take a look at it on some different charts and see if we can find some direction. Is this the double top? Definitely remains to be seen. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. Looking at Fear and Greed, we stepped back up to a 52. Honestly, I would have expected it to be a little bit more bullish on the run we had today. Back to Extreme Greed on momentum. Strength still basically trending lower. Did curve up just slightly, but not much. Breadth continues to weaken. Put call ratio hovering in this 0.62, 0.63 area. Volatility did trend back lower a little bit. Safe haven demand still in fear. Junk bonds rolling down back into greed, but still really mixed markets for a market that was super bullish on the day. Moving over to seasonality, remember the low for the month is supposed to be that Friday into the Monday time period, so we're still expecting a little bit more bearishness as we head into the last two trading days here into that Monday next week. And then we're supposed to see this Santa Claus rally, January effect, small cap outperformance. So we're not quite there yet. I do think we might see some more downturns, especially if we end up seeing that double top on the S&Ps. Moving over to Max Pain, it did step up just a little bit to 601, nothing crazy. Total options stepping up slightly. Put call ratio still in that same vicinity. We're getting close to that 606 call wall. We did finish above it here today. I still think we'll probably finish a little bit below it for the end of the week. Top of the puts is about 610. 611 if we do end up getting a super bullish close, which would give you about a 1% potential up move, just short of 1% for the end of the week. And then moving over to the charts here on the S&Ps, you can see we got very close to that trend line, did end up missing it just barely. Did throw a wick to these all-time highs, overthrew the closing prices of these last couple candles at that level. And now you can see we actually are rejecting a little bit after hours. I still think this is going to be your overhead resistance in here. That's currently 609.28. If we continue to grind on this, certainly a possibility. Momentum did step back to bullish a little bit. Very, very hard to see that. You can see step to bearish just for a second, and then back to bullish here just a little bit. Really choppy, not really something to work off of for now, but it is something. Getting back into the zone, waiting to see if this is a true double top. The RSI is right at the SMA. Again, a zone where it could reject, or at least give us a lower high on the RSI. Again, strength, also big divergence as well. You can see same closing price, RSI read of a 65.33 versus the last time we were here, we were in the 68 to 70 area. So same price action, lower strength. Does look like a zone where we could see a little bit of resistance. And then you can see that here on the hourly chart, straight up bars, missed the upper trend line, pulled back into the end of the session, continuing to sell a little bit after hours. First candle was a pretty big one, actually, almost 0.1% for after hours. Momentum selling, hit overbought conditions, back below the RSI. If it's going to, I would expect this to at least get into this kind of ATR consolidation, 605. Certainly could show the higher low. It was stronger than I would have expected, especially after the weakness that we saw yesterday, but CPI gave markets a little bit of confidence as we head into that FOMC week. And then looking at the SPY chart here, you can see we're back into bullish conditions, took out the ATR trailing stop on that second candle of the day, did close above it, pulled back right to that level. The ATR trailing stop was at 606.87, and you can see closing price or current price 606.78. So we're right there. Technically, we overthrew it and closed above it. So we're back into bullish conditions. Current trailing stop would be 602.36. But I think this might be one of those times where you just get a little bit of choppy action. So you got bearish for just a second, bullish. We'll see if that ends up holding up. And same thing here on the hourly chart, back into bullish conditions, obviously way overthrew that upper band. Made sense that we did pull back a little bit. We're below the 8 on the hourly. Probably going to pull back into that mid-range like I talked about, 605, 65, somewhere in here. Seems like momentum continuing to go a little bit lower. Not huge volume on the day. Volume did ramp a little bit into the selling. So we'll see if it ends up holding tomorrow. My guess is we'll probably see at least somewhat of a pullback. Again, 605.11 makes sense. Maybe even to that lowest EMA there, which is at 604.72. Moving over to the NASDAQ, obviously a very different thesis here. 1.79% on the day, absolutely massive, huge gap higher, huge continuation, momentum very bullish, RSI almost overbought once again. Still looking at this upper trend if it's going to go. That's currently sitting here around that 535.06 area, which seems definitely in range at this point after the super bullish candle that we got here today. So we held this trend line in here, almost touched that 9 EMA, and then we ended up getting the big move. A lot of that was catalyst off of Tesla and Google over the last 2 days, but you have to respect the price action. Very, very strong, very shallow retracement, which should give this some more opportunity into this zone here. And then once we touch that area, I would certainly expect a deeper pullback here, something more in line with this where you see somewhere around 3 to 4%. Once you hit the trend line in here, 3 to 4% lower would take us back down to this area here, around 511, 512, somewhere in this structure. So still would be a higher low off of this, higher low off of this, but short term still looks very bullish. And then looking at that hourly chart here, you can see straight up candles, really, really strong, nearly 1% on that 8 o'clock candle after the CPI held these levels. Once it pushed through here, markets kind of knew we were going higher. And you can see the structure much more bullish than the S&Ps above this consolidation high. We were looking at this as a left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Ended up breaking that neckline just for a moment. Yesterday, big head fake there, continuation higher. It is selling into the end of the session, into the after hours, so maybe it's a little extended here. You can see we got all the way up to an 80.5. Very, very high on the RSI reads there, so maybe we get a little bit of a pullback. But with how strong this was here today, you would expect buyers to come in and prop that up as a higher low, continuation higher. And looking at the Tasty charts here for the NASDAQ, you can see we did hit that upper band, took out the ATR trailing stop, so bullish conditions, big volume. NASDAQ seeing much more volume here relative to the SPY. You can see this weird wick down to that trailing stop. We saw it on the SPY too. Didn't show that on the other charts. That might just be a little bit of an anomaly there, but still holding up here. Wouldn't shock me to see this pull back at least to the 8 EMA down at 526.30. So just a $2, $2.50 move here. Hold that level, continuation higher. Again, the NASDAQ does look stronger. You can see on the hourly chart just how extended we were very, very early in the session, pulled back to that ATR bands area. 8 EMA still holding up. Again, wouldn't shock me to see this pull back to that ATR trailing stop on the hourly, which is at 526.03, pretty much in line with what we just talked about. Right in here, hold that higher low continuation style move. Obviously, all the ATR bands, they were kind of trending lower, just starting to flatten out a little bit, but now they are resuming that kind of upward trajectory. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. The Russell did stay positive on the day, 0.45. Threw a big wick to that 9 EMA, touched that level, and then pulled back nearly to the open price from the previous day. It looked very strong during the mid-session and got all the way up to 239.28, really, really high, up into the almost consolidation here at this previous peak area, up into that 241 almost. But then we pulled back for the closing candle. I just want to show that here on the hourly chart. Again, looked really, really good. Pulled back, held the higher low, continuation, strong candle into this zone here. Touched my alert there. I was liking this. I thought we might push into this zone here, and then you can see big down candle right at the end of the session, big selling volume. Really, really strange. Still holding the higher low. Want to see it get back above 238 and close above it. Really not doing it right now. Momentum starting to slow. It is still bearish momentum. 21 EMA continues to get tested and holding. VWAP continuing to get tested. This looks more like a bull flag type setup now as we kind of chop sideways slowly lower. But we held the higher low now. We'll see if it ends up breaking higher from here. The Russell does look a little better here today. And then looking at the Dow, very, very different story. Just continues to go straight down. 5 days in a row of straight down price action. Closed right on top of the VWAP there. 442.45 was VWAP. Closed at 442.51, so just above it by a couple of cents. After hours, we are well below it. Looks like we're going to sell at least to that 441.43 area. Momentum still bearish. RSI continuing to go lower here on the Dow. Interesting to see the Dow underperform so massively after it outperformed really strongly through this last push. Moving over to the Mag 7, what a day here as well, 2.7%. Obviously, the Mag 7 is what's driving the NASDAQ right now and why the NASDAQ is outperforming. Pushed clean through this level, gapped through it, retested it, continuation. So your next target is up here, 239.99, 240, somewhere in here. Seems like this structure is going to continue to play out. So you had the high, the low, retested the high, retested the low, overthrew it a little bit. But now we're headed back up to that high, momentum super bullish. Again, if it goes to that upper level, that still gives you about another 3% in that area. So still looks very good. Mag 7 massively outperforming here and carrying markets higher. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, Apple finally pulling back just a little bit after this massive run. You can see from top to bottom, that was about 13-14% or so. Very, very strong run. Through a big wick, closed on the low, closed below the previous candle, momentum starting to roll after getting super extended at a 77.9. So maybe you see a little bit more pullback there, just super extended. I don't think we're going to see any kind of change in structure by any means, but short-term pullback makes sense to me. And then Microsoft regaining the momentum after showing wick rejection yesterday. You can see stepped down on momentum, but stepped back to bullish. We can see that occasionally, just like we did here on Apple, 2 steps down, 1 kind of resurgence candle, and now we're kind of resuming that movement down. We'll see if it gets up to that 543.30 level. Remember, as long as 440.72 didn't break, we're still bullish up to that next level. Does seem a little extended, did take out the wick just barely, but selling in the after hours, pretty much like everything else. Overall, still looks okay in the short term, but I would be a little bit more cautious here on it tomorrow than I was here today. Again, I thought we'd touch the level and then kind of continue from there, but we ended up gapping and rallying with the CPI data. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, Tesla just continues to be an absolute rocket ship. Insane. Another nearly 6% after hours, up another $4 or so. Very, very strong. Continues to run. Momentum super bullish. RSI super bullish. This has been an insane run at this point. Massive, massive move. We've seen things like this before on Tesla, but usually they come crashing down. We'll see if this one does it as well. You can see from top to bottom, we started around 139.50, and that is about a 200% move, a little bit over 200%, 205, somewhere in there from bottom to top. So we'll see. Clean breakout, all-time highs, price discovery continuing to run. Tesla looking very, very good, and I would definitely not get in the way of that, at least in the short term. And then looking at NVIDIA, continues to look not so great. Didn't continue lower like I thought that it might, but still chopping within the same trading range here. Can't get above the 9, might retest the 21, we'll see. Did stay positive, but you can see the structure is obviously very different. We're still in the same trading range. I still think this is going to sell a little bit. I think it's being propped up by markets right now. If markets were not bullish, I think this would have sold off quite a bit more. But because we got an overall bullish day, NVIDIA got held up a little bit. Moving over to Amazon and Google, you can see Amazon up 2.32%, continues through those all-time highs. 231.20 was the high, closed on a new record close as well. Momentum resuming that upward movement. So very short-term pullback. See if it can hold above that high from the Monday session. We'll see. Otherwise, pretty much everything in the Mag 7 looks very good, except for NVIDIA right now. And then Google obviously has been absolutely incredible. Huge gap up yesterday, 5%, another continuation, 5.5%. A lot of hype around this quantum computing chip that seems to be computing way faster than anybody thought that it could, and they seem to be getting it working right now. And if they do, obviously the demand for that is going to be incredible. Could give us something like the NVIDIA run where everybody was trying to buy these chips as quickly as possible. Just to try to give this some structure, let's extend out some of these trend lines that I did not think were going to be relevant here in the near future, but they are seeming to be relevant here now. I'm giving you some full screen action on Google. You can see your price target here would be the 250 area. $200, obviously big psychological level, new all-time high close. Thought we might find a little bit of hesitation at 193.30, which is your all-time high previously, but pushed right through that, super aggressive on the day. Volume ramping on Google, pushing into this zone here. So very, very strong. Mag 7 continues to be very strong. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples selling off 0.76. Seems like the risk on is resuming. We did not take out the previous low, and we didn't touch the level here at 81.85. So still interesting. Sold off a little bit more after hours. 21 EMA in there as well at 81.80. Momentum selling off. RSI not great with the breakdown, retest, breakdown. So does look like it could sell some more. Still kind of looks like a bull flag. Still think that that's a possibility, but not super great after today. And then discretionaries continues to break out through this area here. That's the highest trend I think I had on discretionaries. Going out to the weekly chart to see if there's anything I have. I really don't. That was the highest trend that I had, at least in the medium to long term. Zooming out here, you can see there is a little bit of structure here. I could certainly add this maybe for the weekend video to see if we can get some price targets, add this same trend structure to these upper levels here, see if that gives us something to work with, but It's really, really hard at this point, just continues to be super aggressive. It's been a massive run, again, being driven by Amazon and Tesla. Very similar, just at a lower scale here, about 40% on discretionaries. Moving over to communications and semis. Communications having a good day, 1.63%, obviously being driven by Google. Very, very strong move there. Trend resistance is up at 104.6, so another $2.50 or so. Momentum bullish. RSI just barely back above the SMA, still overbought. And then looking at semiconductors, had a pretty good day actually, 2.45 for the overall sector. Still holding this 200. This is probably partly why we're seeing NVIDIA still holding up, because the overall sector is still finding support in here. This is the daily chart. You can see multiple tests, continues to flatten out. Once that 200 goes, I think we're going to see this start to sell off a little bit more. But for now, tested it yesterday, big bounce off that level, continues to find support at the 200, which is right now at 239.50. Moving over to gold and oil, you can see gold had a good day, 0.95, back above the 250 level. Selling off just a smidgen after hours, but momentum bullish, big volume here on that up candle. Want to see this continue through up to this trend here in the 263, 265 area. We'll see. And then looking at oil, this has been chopping in the same region. We held a slightly higher low. 3 candles in a row of bullish. Strong candle today, about 2.5%. I do like this to push to the 73 area after getting to about that 70.30. We're watching this trend line here. That's something to trade off of if you want to, around that $70 level. Want to see $70 hold and then push to that 73 as the next zone. Moving over to breadth, this is doing basically exactly what I thought it was going to do. So we talked about yesterday how this 20-day was already in the critical zone. Did get a slight pop there, did stay positive on the day, but it's really in the same vicinity, the same as what we saw here, where you got a pop, pulled back, same kind of zone between that 3370 and 36 area. And then we're seeing the 50-day continue to sell here. So probably going to see this continue for maybe a day or two, where you just get choppiness in the 20-day, momentum continuing to roll down here, while the 50 continues lower to this trend in here around the 46 area. Once we touch that area and this previous low, then I think we'll probably kind of bottom out on breadth. And then once we bottom out and we start to see a resumption to the upside on breadth, that should give markets a little bit of a stronger push, especially if the Mag 7 starts to slow down on the massive run that it's on right now. Moving over to the dollar, dollar continues to show some strength. That's 4 days in a row. Almost hit the level there at 106.84. We almost touched it and then rejected from that area. Selling off here into the end of the session, gapped lower to open the Wednesday session. See if this continues to fall in here towards that 55 on the hourly, 106.4. We're above the 21 EMA. I was hoping this 21 EMA was going to hold as resistance and start to sell to give equities a little bit more potential there. But it seems like the dollar is showing a little bit more strength today than I expected it to. You can see we closed above this previous kind of consolidation high here. So not super great. Dollar looking a little bit strong, but seems to be selling pretty aggressively here into the open. Moving over to bonds, JNK staying basically flat, 2 cents to the upside, finding a little bit of strength after hours, nothing crazy, just continues to hover in the same zone. And then looking at TLT, so TLT pulled back to the 21, like we said that it was going to. We talked about how we were extended in here. Momentum started to roll over the last couple days, and now we've accelerated down to that 21 EMA. Now this is the critical area, right? So 92.07, if we can hold this level, so you get the breakout retest of the 21, continuation higher to this zone in here, that's when you can see these bigger kind of pops where you get about a 5 to 6% up move from there. Right now, momentum says it's probably going to cut through it. Momentum did not really culminate at all. So might see this pull back, double bottom in here around that 90 flat, maybe 89.50, somewhere in there, double bottom type move. But this was a pretty big move here, and I would expect a bottoming formation of some kind. The question is, what does it look like and how long does it take to happen, in my opinion? Moving over to the VIX. VIX obviously sold off on the day after getting close to that 21 yesterday. Nothing crazy, back into the same range it's been in. Momentum is still bullish. RSI is still a little bit bullish, so I wouldn't say this is completely over yet, but for now, it's kind of back into this range. We'll see what happens with it tomorrow. Moving over to my accounts, I did fine. Not as well as I could have, but I did pretty good, about $600 on the day or so. Back above that 138,000 level, you like to see it. Almost to 11,000 net profits on the year. Overall, pretty good year. Obviously not as good as markets, but on these super bullish years, I don't tend to do as well. Still making money, can't complain. $10,000 is not anything to scoff at, especially with the amount of risk that I take compared to the overall markets. candles. But in terms of positions here, I rolled out to 239 for 2 days from now, and then I actually rolled it back down and in for basically break even to 238 for 97 cents. Because of that candle we talked about on the charts, the Russell sold off massively at the end of the session. So now 238 for tomorrow. It's in a small profit, managed to make a little bit of money there. Only $80 on the day, should have made more, but a little bit annoying. And then looking at the Qs, rolled out. This was actually a 2-day rollout to 7 days from now. I was at 2 days to expiration today, and then I rolled out to 6 days and then rolled out to 7 days. And that's here at 523 for $7.50 credit. So that puts my max profit at 230.50. I almost rolled out right at the end of the session. The NASDAQ was sitting up there around that 230.50 level, so right at my max profit. But then we started to sell off into the end of the session and into the after hours. We're at 528.76 right now, so actually another dollar lower. So I'm going to be cautious here. Plenty of credit, time to be patient on this position. If it rolls down, I should be in good shape. A little bit over 1.5% of credit on each of these over the next basically 4 trading days. So I can be patient. I can let that money roll in if we start to see a pullback. I'm not super concerned about it. Overall, moderately bullish. You can see my deltas here on the IWM, 25 deltas there, and then 57 here on the Qs. So relatively protected, but staying bullish into tomorrow's session. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about charts, especially after what we saw here today. Where do you think markets are going to go? Are we going to see the double top and the SPY? And is that going to drag down the overall market? Or are we going to continue to those higher highs as we head into the Santa Claus rally time period? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.